Only in Natchez, Mississippi will you find a house attached to its very own bank. Welcome back to Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin at our Restoration Nation.
Hi, I'm Kevin Stone. Welcome to the Banker's House. Welcome to the Banker's House. This is a house that was built between 1835 and 1838 by Levin Marshall. He built Richmond, a plantation that's right outside of Natchez, and he created this along with the bank, the commercial bank of Natchez. When he decided to open the bank, he said he needed a home in town. So Richmond was his true home where all of his children lived and his wife, and it has about 10 bedrooms, and it's been added onto many times. This was strictly for him to entertain with the bank. So he built this and the bank. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. It has that listing because it is one of the only banks attached to a house in the entire country. It's made out of slave-made bricks. The walls are 20 inches thick, interior and exterior, and there's no wood on the front of the house. The entire front of the house is either carved limestone or brick. It's amazing that they built this structure in that fashion because it was the most expensive way to build structures at that time. Most of the stone, according to what we found in newspapers, came from Cincinnati down the river on boats and was brought here specifically for these structures. There are a few structures in Natchez that have carved limestone facades on them, but none that have in the entirety, where the only thing that's wood in the entire house are the sashes of the windows and the door fronts. When Levin Marshall built the house and the bank, he was very prosperous. He was one of the wealthiest men in Natchez. But they had a cotton blight show up right before the Civil War, and Natchez suffered greatly and the bank went under. He allowed the home and the bank to be sold at auction, and it became a boarding house. So the house was a boarding house, and she survived a lot of years and a lot of abuse to still look amazing like she is now. Its interior is one of the most important structures because of this incredible woodwork. And the woodwork is all carved longleaf pine that's from this area. When we bought the house was in dire need of renovation. We did a floor up renovation. We replumbed, rewired. We put new electrical systems in everything, new bathrooms, new kitchen, and we basically replaced 80% of the plaster on the exterior of the house, and we replaced about 60% of the plaster on the interior of the house because it had all released from the brick and was falling off. We also stripped all the woodwork and repainted it, and it was originally painted. Some of it had originally been grain painted, but we've chosen not to go back with the grain painting on the few things. There was none of it left, and it had been painted over with white paint numerous times. But the house, like I said, had no familial connection in Natchez because it became a boarding house. So up until the 1930s, it was a boarding house. In the 1930s, it had a wing on the far side of the house that was part of the slave quarters in the house, and it burned. And instead of repairing it, because it was the 30s and the Depression, they just tore off that part of the house, which was amazing to me. We luckily were able to have the space to use to put a pool in, which made it really nice. But the house itself is structurally incredibly sound, and even though it's been abused, some families moved in the 40s, and they were here through the war, and then it sat vacant. And there are kids' stories in Natchez about the house that they would come and play in this vacant house and thought it was haunted. And unfortunately, our banister, which you can see behind me, Has many, many breaks, because every child I've talked to of a certain age in Natchez, probably in their 50s and 60s, says, oh, we slid down that banister all the time and they broke it in a million pieces. I could kill them. But the house itself has held up incredibly well. It just needed a little bit of tender loving care to bring it back to itself. We made it a family home. And so my partner, Mark Diamond, and I live in this house, and we have how it houses our collection of 25 years of being in the antiques business. I'm originally from Arkansas. I moved to Dallas. I had a store in Dallas for 20 years, and then I had a second location in New Orleans on Magazine Street. I was in Magazine Street for almost 40 years. And we just chose to move to Natchez because of the incredible historic architecture we have here. This house being one of them.
I mean, look at this. Look at this. Look at this disaster that we're living in. This is what we live in all the time. We do restoration work. It's dirty. It's stinky. It's foul. We need help. And we have found help with Lumi. It was actually about 5 years ago when I first saw my first Lumi commercial. I had been searching for an aluminum-free deodorant forever. And guess what? None of the other ones worked. They all left me smelling stinky and disgusting from all this really hard work at the end of the day. And then I tried Lumi because I watched a funny commercial on social media and I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. I have been a devotee ever since.
Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping.
This product is, can I say this product is stinking amazing? This product is anti-stinking amazing. How about that? Aluminum free, works for 72 hours on your whole body. Now I could get graphic and give you all the details, but instead I'm just gonna say Lumi is a safe, incredibly effective whole body deodorant, and I am its biggest fan. When they reached out to us and said, hey, would you do a commercial? I was like, heck yeah, gonna send me some product because I've been spending lots of dollars with you for a long time.
As a special offer for our followers, new customers get $5 off a Lumi starter pack with code RESTORATION23 at the link in the video description, or scan the QR code on the screen right now. That equals over 40% off your starter pack when you click the link below and use code RESTORATION23.
Lumi keeps you smelling fresh all over.
This is the center hall of the house. This house was built on a center hall plan, which was very, very familiar in Natchez and many southern towns like New Orleans, where they have a central hall that would go, you can open it in the back, it runs down the front of the house, and the rooms open off of the hall. This would allow the air to come in from the river, and the breezes would come through the central hall, and then they would go into the other rooms. This was before transoms were popular, so everything was just opened up, and it would allow the air to flow. So the center hall here, we have a couple of things that are of note from our collection. We have a pair of portraits that are of Charles II of England's grandchildren, and they actually were Italian. All of the families in Europe would intermarry because Italian royalty, the Spanish royalty, the Swedish royalty, and the English royalty would all marry each other. That's how they kept from having 3 heads. But we didn't know who these people were in these portraits. We purchased them from an estate and we put them on our website. And lo and behold, the work of the internet happened, and an Italian man calls us and says, I know who those people are from the brooch that the boy is wearing and from how the girl is with the peregrine falcon. He said they are the grandchildren of Charles II of England, and we were gobsmacked, and then we did more research and found out that indeed they were. So yay for the internet once again. But I'm going to take you out of the center hall. This is where we introduce people to the home, and we're going to go into our living room. This is our formal living room. This is where we have fancy drinks, as we say in Arkansas. So this is where some of our most prized possessions are. There's a pair of chairs right over here. They're Louis XV in style. And I purchased them from a old customer who passed away, and in his will, he listed me and said, if you get ready to sell my things to his executor, please call Kevin Stone and see if he wants any of them. He had this pair of chairs. He had them covered in alligator, real alligator skin. And to make an alligator skin wide enough to actually cover these chairs, the alligator has to be at least 20 years old. And so they're very expensive. It took 6 alligator skins per chair because the seats, the cushions are loose. He spent $80,000 having the chairs covered. And I told him there's no way in the world that I'm gonna pay $80,000 for the chairs, but I'd really like them. And so we ended up negotiating and I got the chairs. I just think they're amazing because you never see real alligator covered furniture. We also have a pair of chandeliers. One is in the living room and one is in the dining room, which you will see later. They're from Genoa, Italy, and they're 18th century. And when we bought them, the family was still using candles in them. And they were all lit by candles and they were not wired. We had them wired here so that we could use them. I had 6 of them. And when we purchased them, we thought we would try to keep all 6 of them together, but as you can see, they're very massive. They're almost 6 feet in diameter and 4 feet tall. So it was unlikely that anyone would ever need 6 of them. So we sold 2 to a couple who had a big loft in Houston, and another pair to a couple that lived on St. Charles Avenue in New Orleans and had a very large home. And we kept 1 pair for ourselves. Also of note in this room are Aubusson portieres from the Napoleon III period in France, and they're Aubusson tapestry. We had them, they were door coverings. Portieres were door coverings that were meant to keep the breeze going out of the door. So it would make, you would drop them in front of a door and it would make them not be cold in your room, because in France it was freezing cold all the time in these big castles. We lucked out and over a number of years bought enough Aubusson panels that we could have shades made for the entire downstairs of the banker's house. And so all of these are custom made shades out of 19th century Aubusson panels. The drapery in here are all French Pierre Frey fabric that we ordered from France, and we had them made here in Natchez by a wonderful woman named Carolyn Clark. She is 75 years old, and she made all these drapery and hung them and got up on a 12-foot ladder. And I'm trying to tell Miss Carolyn, I'm saying, please let me help you, I can't. And she's swinging around like a monkey in a tree, and like she's 20 years old, and she hung all the drapery in the entire house. It's just amazing to me. And so now we'll go into the music room. This is the music room. We entertain a lot in Natchez. It's funny because we came to Natchez expecting to be a downsize from New Orleans, where we were busy quite often socially. But Natchez, we're busy every night. It's crazy. They love a party in Natchez, and they love a quiet evening at home. They love to have a dinner party, and there are many, many talented people. I personally am a singer, and I play the piano, but we have many, many talented pianists, singers, flautists. There are many, many talented people in Natchez. It's amazing small town. We have a grand piano in here, and we bring people in here after dinner to play some music, to sing, and to have some fellowship. We have a mirror here, which is 18th century, about 1750, from a palazzo on the Grand Canal in Venice. Unfortunately, that palazzo has about 6 feet of water in its basement right now, and that's why they were selling off things out of the Piano Nobile floor, because it was flooding. And so they were selling all the things off because they can't use it any longer. The big bookcase that's behind me wasn't actually a bookcase originally. It's 18th century, and it came out of a big religious building, and it was a picture frame, and it had a picture a oil painting of the Pope sitting in it. And they took the Pope painting out, and in the 19th century, an Italian family made it into a bookcase, which I think is kind of cool. There are a pair of mirrors on each side, which are made out of ivory, but not big tusks of ivory. It has an interesting story. They're from Dieppe, France. They're called Dieppe mirrors. And in Dieppe is a prison, but also was a port city. And it was the port city where all the boats came into France from Africa, and they were bringing all the ivory in the 19th century. And when you take the tusks of an elephant, they're hollow on the end, and they break off, they chip off. And so the prisoners would pick up all of the chips of the ivory that were laying around the docks, and they would carve them and pin them onto boards and make these mirrors, which is an interesting way of reusing and recycling, because otherwise that ivory chips would have just been thrown away. Now we're going to go into the television room. This is our downstairs TV room. And everybody says, do y'all really live in that house? It's like a museum, but of course we live in this house. And when we have friends over to watch television and watch games or things like that, we put them in this 18th century armoire de mariage. And we have a 72-inch television inside, but we kind of keep it hidden. We really do live in this house. But this room has some interesting collections in it that are very special to Mark and I. We have a collection of Grand Tour souvenirs, which have a special place in our heart. Some are bronze, some are marble, some are other materials, but they're all representative of different landmarks all over Europe. And when someone would take the Grand Tour from America, or Europeans would take the Grand Tour, they would go to all the major places like Florence, like Venice, and of course they'd want to bring a little of that something home. So the precursor to our tacky plastic souvenirs we buy in a junk shop today were these, which were beautiful bronze and marble statues that were copies of works of art. And so when Mark and I started going to Europe, we went 6 to 8 times a year for the last 25 years. We would buy one every trip and we would bring it home. So the collection is kind of memories of all of our trips to Europe. Now, when we were living in New Orleans on General Pershing Street, we had a beautiful 17th century console table in our living room, and we woke up one night at 3 o'clock thinking someone had driven a car through our house. The console table had collapsed, and half of our collection, which was on top of it, went through. It had a 3-inch marble top, and it all fell on top of it, and it destroyed them all. So this is half of the collection. But it is still quite a lot, because when you figure 6 to 8 times a year for 25 years, it adds up really quickly. You'll notice also in here that we have a spectacular Tuscan chandelier that's 18th century. It again was not wired for electricity. It was candles when we bought it. Next, we'll go into the dining room. So this is our dining room. You'll see the other chandelier that we have, one of a pair that's in the living room that are Genovese from 18th century. We have a very large break front that's Irish in here. It's 18th century, and it holds our collection of porcelains. We have all kinds of porcelains from Delft that come from Holland, 18th century, to Old Paris, to English porcelains, Derby, Royal Crown Derby. And then we have a set of 12 dining chairs with leather coverings. These have an interesting story, because we were in Italy and we went to some friend's house for dinner, and we sat on these chairs. And I said, oh, I love these dining chairs. Would you sell them to me? And she said, no, they're not for sale. But she said, my grandparents were friends with the Fortunis, which Fortuny is a fabric house in Venice that makes the most spectacular hand-painted fabric. And she said, we had Fortuny drapery, and they wanted some leather to match because the fabric kept wearing out on the dining chairs. So she said, would you make me some? And he said, yes, we will. So as far as we know, this is the only leather ever produced by Fortuny. And it was produced by them with they have stencils that they use to put the paint on the fabric, and they used it to stencil wax on the leather, and then they dyed them, and then they took the wax off, and they made the pattern of the Fortuny on the chairs. So they're pretty special. 2 years later, she finally called me and she said, hey, you interested in those chairs? We're getting a smaller house. And I said, of course I'm interested. And we took them home immediately. We've never offered them for sale, but they're pretty spectacular and they're pretty comfortable too, which is amazing. That's the thing about antiques is people don't realize it's pretty easy to live with antiques. It just is a different way. You have to be a little bit more careful when you scoot the chair back, but I've had many, many contemporary chairs fall apart on me. Also in here is a spectacular bullseye mirror or a convex mirror. And what's commonly thought of in America, they hang these things right over a case piece of furniture. But typically in England and all over Europe, they were hung very high because the use of the convex mirror glass was to reflect the candles that were in the chandelier to make the light go and reflect all over the room, because you wanted the candles to give you a lot of illumination, because if you think about it, they're not putting out nearly the light that these electric lights put out. So everybody hung those. They're very popular because they hung them and allowed the light to go all over the rooms. So next we'll go into the kitchen. So welcome to our kitchen. This is the original kitchen to the house, and it actually has the iron piece that pulls the pot out of the original fireplace in here. Henceforth, why half of this quarters burned off, because there was another kitchen on the other side and then there were slave quarters above. We chose to take everything out of here and start from scratch because in our estimation, we love historic properties. We've renovated over 38 houses, but we do love a modern kitchen that actually functions on a day-to-day basis. Mark is an amazing cook, and so we put in brand new cabinets and the highest end appliances to give us the best ability to cook incredible meals in here. And all of our friends end up hanging out here. Every party we have 30 people standing in the kitchen. It's unbelievable. The kitchen itself is modern and up to date, but still has a traditional feel so that it fits in with the feel of the house. But it's light and airy, and everybody wants to congregate in the kitchen. Now, let's go upstairs and have a look. This is our large guest bedroom. The unusual thing about the banker's house, or one of the unusual things about the banker's house, is that we have marble mantles in every room. Usually in these houses in Natchez and in New Orleans, they would put marble mantles in the main rooms downstairs where everyone would see them because they wanted to project their prosperity. But they wouldn't put marble mantles in their bedrooms throughout the whole house. This house has 14 fireplaces, and all of them are marble mantles. Even our closet has a marble mantle. It's an amazing feature in the house, along with the exceptional woodwork. The baseboards are 28 inches tall, and the window casings and door casings are 18 inches wide. All of that is single board timber, and it was all hand carved, and it's just an amazing feature of this house on top of the solid brick walls. When I tell you that all the walls in the house are brick, I mean all the interior walls, all the exterior walls, everything in the house is solid brick. We're going to go from this bedroom into our small guest bedroom, which has a few little surprises. So this is our small bedroom. It was the guest bedroom that was probably for someone traveling with the main guest, and they would put either children in here, or they would put someone related, an aunt or an uncle. But most likely this would never have had an occupant that stayed in here constantly. This bedroom has a bed that is near and dear to my heart. I've actually slept in this bed since I was 12 years old. It was bought by my family from Arkansas in New Orleans around 1850, 1860, and it was bought from a retailer named Prudent Millard. Its back headboard lifts out, and it would have been put in front of a window so that the breeze would blow across the bed in the summers, so they would take the fancy headboard out and let the breeze blow across the bed. It's kind of an unusual little thing. Again, another marble mantle in here. And we just adore the scale of the rooms. This house has 14-foot ceilings upstairs and down, which is quite unusual as well, because usually there's a slight variation of smaller spaces upstairs than the downstairs. The downstairs were to impress. This entire house was built to impress. He wanted to entertain and to show people that he was wealthy and that he had this bank that he could lend you some money. This is our upstairs sitting room. This is also a television room, and we have a 72-inch TV in this armoire. The armoires have fallen out of fashion a little bit lately, but it's really unusual because they're great to hide a TV. And I don't want to walk into a very lovely traditional room and see a television staring me in the face. I want it to be hidden, but easily accessible so that if you want to watch TV. This is where we spend most of our time in the house. We have our bookcase full of all our reference books for antiques. We have many things that mean a lot of things to us, and super comfy sofas so that we can lounge around, because that's our favorite thing to do. In these rooms, there's a pair of Baccarat crystal chandeliers that we bought in France. They're 18th century and they originally were candle, and we had them wired as well. And so they're in our sitting room and in the bedroom. What I didn't tell you downstairs, and is this true in this room as well as downstairs, is all of these rooms have doors between them. They're not pocket doors like we're in little later houses. They actually open, and they're 4.5 feet wide each door, and they open and they make a 9-foot opening in the center of the room. They open onto each other. But because we have so much furniture and we have so much stuff, we didn't want to waste that wall space where you have to open those doors. So we left them closed and put furniture in front of them. Now we're going to go into our master closet, which is fun. This is our master closet, and it is our dream closet in some ways. We've had big closets before, but we've never had one where we put the washer and dryer in the closet. Because where do you use all your clothes? In the bedroom and the closet. So we have to bring a few towels up from the kitchen, but the bathrooms and the bedrooms are up here, and so we can just wash them and dry them right here. So this is the hydraulic system that was made for us by Rufino Closets in Covington, Louisiana. And they came to Natchez for a special because they've worked for us for a long, long time. We were one of their first customers. And it allows us to put those clothes up top. Everybody has to have a full-length mirror in their closet. And so we have this full-length mirror because we thought it was understated and simple. But we spend a lot of time in the closet too, because I'm doing wash all the time. So this is our principal bathroom, and this is where we spend the lots and lots of time, because Mark loves to take a big, long bath. And so we have a huge bathtub, and we have a huge shower for me with a 25-inch rain head. We had a special plumbing situation here where we brought a 3-inch water line all the way up here because it was upstairs, just to be able to get enough water so that the rain head would actually feel like rain. We took 2 bathrooms that were put in the 70s. We opened up the space and made one primary bathroom. And it allowed us to put separate sinks, a large tub, and a huge shower. We have beautiful marble tile that we brought from Italy, and we have 2 towel warmers. And I've got to tell you guys, we love our towel warmers. It's a elegant thing that we found in hotels, and we just said we got to have this in our own house. It's pretty amazing, and it spoils you terribly. The interesting thing about this bathroom is this and our closet are both over the vault of the bank. And if you go down the trap door that's right here, you can go down in and be directly on top of the vault, and it's solid concrete in the walls. They used to say in Natchez that there was a secret door from the house going into the bank. We have been over every inch of this house, and we have not found that secret door yet. We keep looking because we'd love to go over there. We'd actually love to own the bank, where even though it's not connected except by roof, but the man that owns it will not sell it. He bought it in the 80s from the lady who had renovated the house in the 1970s. And so we're content to just have this magnificent home. Next, we'll go into the principal bedroom. So this is our primary bedroom. And the unusual things about the bedrooms here, this bedroom and the other bedroom, which we use as a sitting room now, both have original closets. Now, they're not closets how we think of today, where they're wide and deep because we had hangers. They didn't hang their clothes on hangers, they hung them on hooks. So these had hooks on the back wall of the closets, and they're 2 original closets to the house. We've heard many stories through the years about why these houses didn't have closets. The biggest story in Natchez about closets is that they taxed you based on the amount of rooms that you had. And closets, because they had 4 walls and a door, were considered a room. So they would tax you an additional room for the closet. This house has 2 original closets. If that were true, he wasn't worried about taxes at all. I think he had plenty of money. But this room is very commodious, just like all the rest of the rooms. When you have a 7,000 square foot house and 3 bedrooms, you can have giant bedrooms. And we've enjoyed the space. I'm so glad that y'all could come to the Banker's House and see our loving restoration and how much we love historic architecture. Please come to Natchez and come to Spring Pilgrimage. All of these houses are going to be on tour, and it is amazing. This is truly a jewel in the crown of the United States. We have such amazing early 19th century architecture in Natchez that's available for people to see. And you can come see my house and you can see how we live in these homes. Please come to Natchez for Spring Pilgrimage.